Hey, Tom Ross, the Intentional Soul here. It's late July 2025, and I got a little bit of road time, and I wanted to get a little video recorded. Haven't done one of these before, so it's going to be pretty interesting, but I wanted to talk a little bit about spiritual awakening, and specifically, those of us who are in the real world. When I say real world, I mean like what you might consider provider roles for family, or like the 9-to-5 job, like the more TikTok kind of TikTok is Stuart Wilde used to call it, the more mundane places in life. Spiritual awakening, if you are one of those people who, like me, is a sole provider for his family or her family, and it can be a pretty confusing place to occupy. And what I mean when I say that is, there's a great Carl Jung quote, which is something like, "There's no coming to consciousness without pain," and that's been true in my experience. I don't know anyone in the different communities I'm involved with, and the different people I've worked with. I don't know anyone who's had a spiritual awakening or any experience of enlightenment who didn't go through a considerable amount of pain to arrive at where they are. And the pain I'm talking about it's existential. It's that gnawing, that dry, gnawing ache of that there's some piece of the story that you're not being told, something that you're not aware of, that's right on the edge of your periphery. And if you could just turn your head fast enough, maybe you could catch a glimpse of it. That soul ache is what I'm talking about. That's a profound kind of pain that most of us who've gone through this experience have lived with. And an interesting phenomenon is, once you've begun to awaken through whatever modality it happens to, you happen to find. Mine was rigorous inquiry, rigorous internal inquiry, and the forgiveness of old information, karma, that I'll call it. I would discern that through feeling. I would discern that through applied kinesiology or muscle testing, and I would forgive the information that I found. And the more I forgave, the deeper the calm and the quiet in my mind, until eventually, boom, the mind stopped talking. And whatever your methodology was, I have friends who have gone through and utilized psychedelics. I have friends who've just used deep states of meditation. All roads lead home. But when you're in that situation, and when you've gone through and begun to come into this awakening, and this is especially true as a sole provider, there is an unconscious and almost reflexive action to make everything wrong that you've done before. And this makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, that first feeling of peace, that first experience of the noise stopping, is so profoundly beautiful. And it feels so different than everything you experienced. All of that pain that you had, all of that unknowing, all of that not being able to make sense of your life, or how you got here, or how you arrived, or what you're supposed to do. All of this, all of that pain, this is the opposite experience. And so, if that feels so good, it's an understandable and unconscious reaction to make everything that came before it wrong in some way. And it's not wrong. And it's a very confusing process to be able to reconcile this new understanding, this new way to experience yourself and the world around you with the life that you'd already built. I always joke, it's like I'm jealous of these kids, into their 20s and having their spiritual awakenings, and then going through the rest of their life, from that position. I needed everything that I created to eventually get to mine. But it's unconscious and reflexive. It is a normal human response to make wrong the stuff that hurt. But it was never the stuff. it was only a relationship to the stuff. It was only having been unconscious in your building of one life that created the conditions by which you experienced it as painful. I say that because, again, as a provider, as a soul wage earner for my family, like that can be a really confusing place if I'm making that wrong. And I know plenty of people who've gone and they've done a whole bunch of psychedelics. Let's say they've experienced profound insights and information, and then they come back and they decide to blow up their life, and all the collateral damage that ensues. And that's one way, that's a way to go through it and to do it. It wasn't the way that I chose. I love my family. I love my wife. I love my children. And I chose to keep things intact and to have things have integrity in that respect. Karmically speaking, whatever decision you make, there's consequence, that flows from those decisions. And so, there's karma that gets created, when you blow up, when you do things that lack integrity. So it wasn't what I was interested in, and I loved all the people in my world, and I sought to try and figure out how to integrate these two worlds. So I came out of the closet, spiritually speaking, back in the end of 2022. I had taken a sabbatical year for most of 2022. I came back. I kind of announced myself as someone who had a very particular spiritual interest, someone who had a very particular point of view. Probably wasn't as loud about it as I could be. I mean, I'm recording this right now to throw up on YouTube and splash around on social media, and I haven't done that really in the last 2.5 years. And part of that's probably hiding a little bit, and the other part of it, is just it's not really native to me, the social side of it. But coming out, I announced I was no longer going to hide who I was or my belief structures, and all that kind of stuff. Eventually, I went back into the mortgage industry, right? So I did spiritual teaching, I did karmic healing, I did release work. I had some clients that I worked with one-on-one to kind of help move them through and be able to hold states of unconditional love or early stage enlightenment, all of that kind of stuff. And it was great. It was richly rewarding. And I was also, day job, I was back in the mortgage industry. And there's a very, very fascinating phenomenon that occurred. I brought in, like, mortgage was this thing that just kind of wanted to express in my world. You might say the seeds that I planted over a long period of time, the relationships that I had, just kind of like they came back and they wanted to do stuff. I brought in a partner. We started working together a little bit in late 2023, and we partnered up in 2024. And I have an amazing partner in this incredible mortgage business that we're building with people that we really love. And coming from a totally different place than anybody else in the industry comes from, and like that's very exciting. It's an act of creation, and I'm experiencing that right now in this way of it's like a transcendent experience, right? So my old business that I built as a top producer was built completely from like survival, just trying to figure it out, just trying to escape, just the life that I had, to make enough money so I could stop doing it, and it was how I think most people tend to create, through survival. And it's a reason why I never went all in, why I never put my foot completely down, because I always had that thing in the back of my head that was telling me that there's something more out there. So why would I want to commit all the way if what I was doing still, this spiritual side of myself was undiscovered, and I knew that I was chasing something that mortgage on its own and just being the biggest, baddest top producer was never going to satisfy. So now it's this act of creation where my mind's already quiet, and it's just the conditions are in place where it just seems like the appropriate thing to do. It seems like the thing that's interesting, the thing that's fun. So I have this incredible mortgage business with this partner, and we're growing, and we're very excited. And at the same time, I still teach spiritually. I teach little 90-minute classes every other Saturday or Sunday or so, and do some karmic release, give people an experience of karma, the impact it has on them, and then I do a little release work, teach them how to spot certain things to be able to let it go in themselves, and all of that's richly rewarding. But I will tell you that it has been really, really confusing at times. The fact that I went through this entire process of unwinding one entire life. I nuked an entire business that I had built. To find myself back in the same space, doing seemingly the same thing. And, back to what I started this conversation with, there's that immediate make wrong, right? So I'm in this state of peace, therefore the life before must have been wrong in some way. And it wasn't the case. It was my relationship to it. It was the reason why I was building. The reasons why I was building. That survival-based build was what came undone. And what was left was, building something from a place of creation. Because the truth of the matter is like I'm this creative person. For whatever reason, I am this creative expression of consciousness that's interested in building things. And when you put me around people tend to feel better and do better when they're around me. That is just part of the thing that I am. I don't pretend to be smart. I don't pretend to own any particular thing that makes it one way or the other. It's just part of what I am, and that's actually part of something that's been me for a long time, pre-enlightenment as well. So I'm in a space right now where we are growing this business, and I just become acutely aware of all my people who have gone through this experience of their own individual spiritual awakenings. And I watch it, and how easy and reflexive it is to make wrong what you were doing when it was never about what you were doing. It was about who you were being in the doing of the thing. And so I hope that that's heartening a little bit, because at the end of the day, you don't have to blow up your life. There will be things that will blow up. There will be things that do not serve you that you will stop doing. The deeper you go, the less room you have for things that do not serve your life and do not serve what you're ultimately committed to. And so there will be change. My wife's a saint. There's been a ton of change in our in our world since I kind of went through this process. But you don't have to blow up the things that are good just because you're having a particular experience or a particular awakening. It is possible to be in the space of family man, family woman, provider, caretaker. It's possible to be all of these things and still be devoted to your spirituality, God, your spiritual journey, your awakening, whatever it happens to be. God and provider are not mutually exclusive. They have nothing to do, there's no opposition between them. And so, I appreciate you taking the time right now. This is just something that I've been chewing on for a little while, and I wanted to just kind of express and document a little bit. I'm very, very happy, very satisfied, very, very pleased with how things are right now in this growth mode. This is the first time I've ever done a growth mode where I've been at peace in the growth, and I'll tell you, it's a hell of a lot more fun than the unconscious way that I grew last time. So I hope you are happy and fulfilled wherever you are. And if you are in the Phoenix area, and you ever want to come out and check out some of the stuff that we do and some of the release work that we do, there is absolutely healing that goes on in these sessions. If that's your jam, if just geeking out on consciousness is your jam, there's absolutely geeking out on consciousness that occurs in these sessions. Yeah, so I'm sure there's going to be a link somewhere down here. Check it out, and I hope you are thriving in whatever your ventures are. Take care.